It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Grind Line here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by my defense partner, Devin Little. Devin, how's it going? We have hockey to talk about for the first time in months. It's actually a hockey game we're going to be talking about here. How's it going?
Well, it's phenomenal because, as you said, we have hockey to talk about. Yeah, I'm not even gonna delay it anymore. Let's go.
Let's go. Yes. Well, let's get right into it. It's our one good, one bad, and I'm sure we know what the good is. So I'm just going to say it. Traverse City Prospects Tournament has begun, and we can talk about the first game, which we will in a couple minutes. But that's my good. My bad, as we'll probably talk about this too, is Carter Mazur was hurt in that game. No report on how he is this morning. They still said they didn't know what the status of him is, and hopefully it's not too bad, because we've talked about Mazur quite a bit during the offseason about potentially he could surprise, make the roster. Really good in the AHL last season. So that's my bad. I hate injuries happening in these types of tournaments because they're not regular season. They're just a prospect showcase. So hopefully it's not too serious, that he'll be back pretty soon. So hopefully I didn't take your good and bad, Devin, but go for it. What's your one good, one bad?
My one good, I'm not even sure if this is from this week or last week, but it's worth mentioning. My one good is that, according to General Manager Steve Yzerman, Simon Edvinsson is going to be good to go by the time the season starts up.
Nice.
Sounds like he'll probably miss training camp, or at least like kind of get going late. But he should be 100% by the time the season gets started, and that's great. We've talked about Edvinsson a lot on this show and what we're kind of hoping to see out of him this season, and to know that he'll kind of hit the ground running as soon as the season starts. That's real good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then my one bad, it's just gonna kind of segue into our discussion of the first game, but the Red Wings lost their first game against the Dallas Stars. They lost 4-2. Leon Bichel looks like a beast for Dallas coming up the pipeline. Holy cow. And that's not even to mention Logan Stankoven, who I think is their best prospect. So, you know, there were some good performers that were wearing red, and we'll talk about them shortly. But Dallas's guys came to play, and they walked away last night with a victory because of it.
Yeah, I mean, the Stars, we've mentioned it. I don't know if I'm more on this show, but on Prospect Corner, we've talked about the Stars, that they're a playoff team and they've got a strong prospect pool. So, I mean, it's kind of amazing how good of a prospect pool they have when they've been so good in making the playoffs, and last season almost making to the Cup final. So, it's showcases it in this prospect tournament of how good they are. So, for sure. All right. Well, we've talked enough about the preamble about it. Let's get into this prospect tournament, Traverse City. And yeah, like you said, they lost 4-2, but this is a showcase. We want to see the prospects. We don't really, of course, we care about Red Wings winning, but it's overall of how the prospects performed and how well they did and who stood out. And in the first game, we had a couple familiar faces score goals. So Elmer Soderblom scored in that game. And then Tuomisto scored the other goal. But, and Danielson had a couple of assists. So they're your two really good prospects. Danielson, obviously a top 5 prospect, according to Devin. According to, I believe, Delaney had him in the top 5. I can't remember particularly if she did. I'm pretty sure. But, yeah, so we had some prominent skaters in that game. And hopefully we'll see more in the next couple games here, too. Devin, what do you think about the first game? Who stood out for you?
It's hard to know where to start, right? There's a lot to take away from that game. I think we'll start on the second line here. The second line was Nate Danielson, Cross Hannes, and Elmer Soderblom. I thought that trio worked really well together. I thought there was a lot of good chemistry, and I think it seemed like whenever they were on the ice, the action was in the star zone, and that's where you want to see them playing. I thought Danielson and Hannes specifically showed some really good chemistry together. Both are WHL boys, obviously. Um, and it was good to see Danielson have a couple assists, right? He's kind of well, he's one of the new kids on the block, but he's the most recent first round pick that's at the tournament at least. So it's good to see him stand out in the box score. And it was also good to see Soderblom look like a player who made the NHL roster last year. It'd be kind of disheartening if he's playing the prospect tournament this year and he like didn't stand out, right? He definitely looked like one of the best players on the ice for both teams. I also liked what I saw out of William Wallander and Atsu Amisto. That was their top defensive pairing. They look like they had some good chemistry going. I think that has the makings of a defense pairing in Grand Rapids this season. And I think that's maybe kind of why they're together to start up the hop here. So it was good to see them already kind of playing off each other well. I'm good to see Tuomisto get rewarded. And then I'll also say Sebastian Kosa, who played the first half of the game. I wouldn't say he looked bad, but I also wouldn't say that he like really impressed. The two goals he allowed were more defensive miscues than they were him not making a save. But you'd also like to see him make a save there and bail out his team, right? So if you're hoping to like head into game two with like super gung ho about Sebastian Costa. Unfortunately, that's not where we're at right now. But I also don't think that you should be down in the dumps about him. It was just kind of like I said, bad defensive play in front of him. Overall, I mean, some good play from individuals, some definite standouts. But at the end of the day, this is one game, right? And like you said, it's a showcase more than like an actual tournament. Um, so at the end of the day, you kind of just want to see players looking good. It doesn't really matter what the box score says. And I think, coming off of the first game, their best players looked like their best players. And that's the bare minimum you have to hope for in a tournament like this.
Yeah, I mean, you want your top prospects to look like your top prospects. You want them to not be noticeable. And I love that Danielson was noticeable because, like I say, we've talked about him quite a bit. I say that he could potentially be in the NHL as faster than a lot of other prospects. And Dan Watson seems to agree with me. See, he said, quote, he's a really real smart player, plays a 200-foot game, makes plays, sees plays, and anticipates the game well. He's going to be a really good player. So that's pretty good. Our first impression from Grand Rapids' new head coach. So, I'm impressed by just, seeing that as a quote. So we'll see how Danielson does in main training camp the rest of this tournament, but that's good for his first game to be noticeable and get a couple of assists and get praise from the head coach as well. So I'm loving that. All right, Ted, looking ahead to the next two games, they play the Columbus Blue Jackets. As you're watching this, it'll be this afternoon. So what do you expect from the Red Wings in the next? Oh, actually, what do you be watching for this next couple games before this tournament is over?
Well, first things first, I hope that they don't get blown out in their game against the Blue Jackets because ooh, is there a lot of talent on that Blue Jacket squad? Holy cow. I think if you ask Maple Leafs fans what they think of that Columbus squad, they'd have a lot of things to say. So first and foremost, don't get embarrassed tomorrow. Make sure it's a good game. But no, I kind of want to see more or less more of the same. I concluded my thoughts on the first game with their best players looking like their best players. You want to see that continue.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Michael Casper potentially making a push for the NHL roster. He's got to keep looking good at the start here in the prospect tournament. That can carry over into training camp. Soderblom, we've talked about him potentially making the roster. We've also talked about how all the bodies they've added in the offseason make that pretty hard for him. Um, but he, at least after one game, looks like a guy who fully intends on making the roster again. You want to see that continue. You also want to see, their Wallander and Tuamisto, the top pairing,
Mhm.
continue to look good together. If they are going to be a pairing in Grand Rapids, you want them to really establish that chemistry and look like they can play meaningful minutes, because they're both second round picks. Both could play a big role for the rebuild as time goes on. Both big, skilled offensive defensemen who can contribute from the blue line. So you want to see them continue that momentum. And then last but not least, I feel like I'm kind of just like readdressing my points from the last question, but you want to see Costa have at least one game where like there he
Yeah.
is. That's the guy we're excited about. Um, I'm not expecting him to like stand on his head and like, be a crazy like at the end of the day, save your best for training camp and preseason.
Mhm.
You look good in this, for sure. But I don't want to see Kosa flopping all over and then all of a sudden get hurt because he's trying too hard
Mhm.
in a prospect tournament. So, I want to see him looking good, but at the end of the day, save his best for when the games still don't count, but they still they mean a bit more.
Yeah.
Um and inspire confidence for what will hopefully be a long season in the AHL for him.
Yeah, you don't want him to get hurt in this and not play preseason, and because we do want to see him in some preseason games, hopefully. So yeah, that's something you don't want to see, especially we already seen an injury with Mazur. So yeah, and the Blue Jackets beat the Maple Leafs 7-3 in that game. Fantilli had a couple of assists. So really, I don't think he should be playing in this tournament, but he's a prospect. he does qualify, but he's too good to be part of this. All
Do
right.
you,
Well,
do, do, do you think
I
he's gonna make
agree. That's
do,
it.
do you think he's gonna make their roster?
I no, I don't think so. I think he's going back to junior. I think he's going back to college. I don't think he's going to tell the season. No, Fantilli's like probably be their top line center. I would assume. The way he's looking, it looks like he's well on his way. But we'll have to find. We'll have to see if that happens. All right. Well, yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be exciting to see these next couple. I mean, the Blue Jackets are probably the top team in this tournament prospect wise. So that one I think would be the biggest test. And we'll see how the rest of it goes when this weekend comes to the end, and we'll talk about it on our next episode. What happened in the rest of that tournament as well. Okay, off the rush. Now I know it's early, Devin, but what do you think? Has this the first game changed anything for you about prospects that could potentially force their way onto this roster, or is it too early?
Too early, and also, you don't want to read too much into one game. But I do have a lot more. I guess I'm a little bit more excited about a player like Cross Hannes.
Hmm.
Thought he looked really good. I think, if he continues playing the way he did yesterday, 2 days ago when you're watching this, um, he's going to be a player who's looking for a call up at the end of the season, and that's what you want to see out of a player like him. So, yes and no. Again, don't want to read too much into one game, but there's definitely plenty to be excited about if you are going to look deep into the one game.
Yeah, like we've said, there's the couple Danielson for sure being a
Yep.
standout. That's big. We'll see Amadeus Lombardi in this next game. He wasn't in the first game to a personal issue, so he will be playing in this one. I was confirmed this morning, so he should be, at least Watson said. He should be here tomorrow, he said, but I'm assuming he probably will be. Yeah, so we'll see him, and yeah, I think it was a good first game, but yeah, probably not good to read too much into it. But it's good to see some prospects stand out. All right, before we move on to our next two player previews, here is a message from the Hockey Writers.
Interested in writing for the Hockey Raiders? If you have experience writing about hockey, are passionate about the sport, and are looking to take your writing to the next level, the Hockey Raiders could be the place for you. Here at THW, you will have the opportunity to hone your craft at one of the world's largest and most respected hockey publishers. You will have control over what you write, be able to seek out media credentials, and be supported by a large network of writers and editors. Plus, you'll get paid for doing it. If you're interested and want to know more about team openings and requirements, please visit the Write for THW page on the Hockey Raiders website. A link to that page is also listed in the description.
Right. Let's get into our next couple previews, and one of them is a pretty big name, but let's start with one of the new additions to the roster, JT Compher. Played with the Avalanche. He's played with the Avalanche over his whole career. So his first year with the Red Wings. Devin, what do you think? What are your expectations for Compher? I know we have talked about him a bit on this show already, but looking into the future here, which is not that far away, we got preseason going to see him in a Red Wings jersey. What are your expectations for the season for
him? If you go back like a year ago, and when we were doing this for Andrew Kopp, whatever I said for him a year ago, pretty much apply it to Compher this year. And honestly, whatever I said about Kopp a couple weeks ago, I could probably say the same thing too.
Yeah.
They're very much the same player, aren't they? Anyways, I am honestly just kind of hoping to see him be a useful player for the Red Wings in all situations, to put it simply. He's coming off of a career season in Colorado. He was kind of their he ended up being their second line center. Put up 52 points in 82 games, played north of 20 minutes for the first time in his career. I don't think he'll be asked to do all that in Detroit this year. I hope not, at least.
Yeah.
But I do think that, coming off of a career, there's always that little thing about a player having a career best season in a contract year. It's kind of like, is that just kind of like there was extra motivation there, and now he's going to settle back into where he's been traditionally, or what is there to be expected there? I'm very interested to see where Compher slides into the lineup, at least to start. I honestly think he's going to be moving around a lot throughout the year, because he's so versatile. You can put him on the wing, you can put him down the middle, you can play with skill players, he can play in a checking role. So, depending on how the rest of the lineup looks, I think he's going to be moving all over the place. I think that makes him a valuable player for the Red Wings. I think that's one of the reasons why Andrew Kopp's a valuable player for the Red Wings as well. But again, we're not talking about Kopp. And I expect him to definitely play a role in the penalty kill. Maybe play on the second power play, depending on, who's healthy, who's playing well, all that good stuff. You kind of want to say, well, you did 50 points last year. Let's do 50 points this year. I don't know if I want to handicap him there because, again, contract year, he's the highest amount of points he put up before last season was 33. That's almost a 20-point jump. So I think if you get 40, 45 out of him this year, I think you're pretty pleased with it. With, obviously room for, like, if it's even more than that, then hallelujah. That's exactly what you want. But I just don't see him as like a everyday 50-point guy. I think it was kind of just a circumstantial thing for him last year. But I do think 40 points and being one of the more versatile players in the lineup is very doable for him this year.
I agree. I think, he's hit double digits in goals every season in the NHL, except for his first one where he split time with San Antonio Rampage. So since he became a full-time NHLer, he's hit at least 10 goals. So that's consistency, which for goal scoring at least. But yeah, his assist totals jumped up a bit last season, probably because who he was playing with. Sometimes, finishing off his passes. Sometimes when you pass it to a guy and he doesn't score. But if you have a guy that actually can finish, you'll get the assist on it. So maybe that's the case. Maybe if he's just with someone that can finish, those assist totals will stay, because his goal totals have been pretty much the same most of his career, right? He's got 17, 18, 16. I mean, the lowest he's scored in the last bunch of years was that 10 and 48 games. So and I believe that was the shortened season. So, I think he'll still score that amount. It's the assists that I think we're kind of iffy on. Will he get the same amount of assists? Because that was a career high 35. So we'll see. Okay, let's get to the big guy, Lucas Raymond. I know, Devin, you did an article on him, doing a bit of a preview. So you're probably going to say a lot what you said in that article. So check that out if you haven't. Devin, what do you think about Lucas Raymond's, his expectations in his third season in the NHL? Because his sophomore season was okay, but it wasn't like as good as his rookie season where he kind of blew everyone out of the water, really. This first bunch of, he did kind of tail off at the end of that season. But what do you think of Raymond going into his third season in the NHL?
I think first and foremost, it's interesting to me how much the mood has changed surrounding Lucas Raymond. Coming out of his rookie year, the only reason why people didn't talk about him more is because Moritz Seider was also a rookie that year and he won the Calder Trophy. If Seider's not on that team or if he isn't a rookie on that team, I think, Raymond's the talk of the town. He's people are going goo goo gaga about him. And that just wasn't the case because there was somebody shining brighter. So then this season, when he has, not as good of a season, I've seen people go as far as to say that he should be traded for like, a top line center or, a big piece. People are talking about the DeBrincat trade before it actually went down. People were throwing Raymond's name out there, and I'm just sitting here like, are you kidding me? What? What? He's the highest pick they've had this entire rebuild. You're gonna ship him off? What are we doing? After 2 seasons, give me a break. And it's not even like his second season was bad. It's 45 points in 74 games. That's like pretty good for a middle sixer, right?
Yeah.
We have higher expectations for Lucas Raymond, and that's why it's all ball humbug. But quite frankly, I think at this point we know that Raymond is a capable NHLer at 21 years of age. I think that's great. And the sky's the limit for him. If you're in that camp of shipping him off, come back to reality with me. It's fun over here, I promise. Anyways, and the dude's got 102 points in 156 games. Like, again, he's 21 years old. What more can you ask for? He's not Connor Bedard, but he's in like the next tier down, I dare say. And we haven't seen what his best is. What do I want to see from him this year? I want him to quiet the nonsense because I'm tired of hearing nonsense. And he doesn't even need to have like a big explosive, like 80-point season to do it. I think if he hits like 65, 70 points, I think everyone's gonna be right back on the train with me. Choo choo.
Yeah.
And for good reason, right? I've talked before about how Alex DeBrincat is going to help Lucas Raymond. Whether it's they're on the same line, so they have, they're able to play with each other, or because Raymond's playing on the next line down and DeBrincat's facing the tough defensive assignments, whereas Raymond gets to feast on lower competition. And for what it's worth, he's added some weight. It sounds like he's added like 10 pounds of muscle over the summer, and that's one of the things he needed to do. He was getting knocked off pucks a little too easily last year. And he took that seriously. He took it to heart. He went, he worked his butt off in the year, and he had a muscle mass. He's going to be able to hold on to the puck better. He's going to be stronger on the puck. And that's going to help him in terms of playmaking and just extending shifts and finding opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised if Raymond has a huge year this year, actually. I don't want to say, huge year or bust for him because I just don't think that's the case. But like I said, I think if he hits 65, 70 points, we're all going to be real excited about him again. I haven't stopped being excited about him for what it's worth. I'm wearing a number 23 jersey right now. But he's going to hopefully silence some nonsense this year. And for what it's worth, one final point here. In his rookie year, we love this stat on the show, but his rookie season, he had a plus minus of minus 32. His second season, his plus minus was minus 17. That's a 15-point improvement. So, maybe the offense took a dip because his defensive play took a jump up, right? I think for Raymond to become the type of player we want him to be, he's got to be dominant all over the ice, not just in the offensive zone. And the fact that seemingly his defensive stats took a step forward last year tells me that he's going to be useful not just in terms of creating goals. He's going to be useful in preventing them as well, and that's an exciting thing to think about as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's 21 years old. Like, give him a break. It's not like he's approaching 29, 30 years old,
Yeah.
and he's still got so much potential. I've said this, mate, about athletic prime. Like, he has not hit that yet. 25, I believe, is like that time when you're the athlete, you hit that, your body is ready. Like, it's fully developed to be, and that's where you see a lot of these career seasons. I mean, yes, Connor McDavid did it way earlier than that, but he's generational. You shouldn't even talk about him. But most players hit those career seasons in their athletic prime, that 24, 25, 26. So I mean, it's something that Raymond's gonna he's so far away from that, and he's looking already really good. So I'm not worried. I think he's going to end up having a really good season, and like you said, playing with DeBrincat, either it be with him on the top line or on the power play, because most likely you're definitely going to see them together on the power play, if not 5-on-5. So I'm anticipating a really big season from him, actually. So yeah, I think Raymond's here to stay, and whoever thinking that he shouldn't be, yeah, like check your, come back to us. Raymond's good. All right. Before we get to the end of the show here, is our last off the rush. And Devin, project Raymond's goal total this season. How many goals do you think he'll score?
I think we're going to be on 30 goal watch this year, but I think he's going to fall just short. I'm going to give him 28, maybe 29.
I'll say he hits 30. I think he's going to hit 30. But just 30. I'm not going to go crazy. But yeah, he definitely has the potential to do it. I think he can definitely hit that 30 goal mark. If not exceed it. And I don't want to say he's going to score 40. That's a bit crazy.
Not yet.
But, you never know. I mean, it could happen. Larkin gets better every season, it seems. So, I don't know if they'll play together either. So we'll see how training camp kind of plays out in the preseason and what the lines look like. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. We've talked about hockey this episode. We're going to talk about more next one. We'll wrap up the prospect tournament and then look ahead to preseason games, which are going to be right around the corner. And then we can talk about that. And then, of course, the regular season, which is not that far away. But we'll also training camp battles. We'll be talking about that too. Lots of stuff coming. So make sure you're throwing those comments in the comment section below. We'll have our comment corner return soon. And make sure you're hitting that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the Hockey Raiders YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed to that. And we got so much going on at the Hockey Raiders right now. Also, the Hockey Raiders Detroit Red Wings Substack. We've launched that. And that comes out, I believe it's at least 2 times a week. I believe it's 2 times a week. And that gets in your inbox a lot of top articles at the Hockey Raiders that you can take a look at. So definitely check that out. And until next time, we'll see you on another episode of the Hockey Raiders Grind Line.